Hello everybody. In the current affairs this week, the week ended 2nd of March 2025. We have been constantly saying that despite whatever is happening on the stock market, the India's growth story is quite intact. This is now supported by figures. India's GDP growth rate in the Q2, the quarter 2, starting from July and ending on September, was 5.6%. And the figures released said that India's growth rate of GDP in Q3, that is the quarter starting from October and ending in December, was to the extent of 6.2%. It is on this basis that it is expected that India's growth rate in the financial year 24-25 is expected at 6.4%. The other important news this week was that the entire world is going on the path of realignment on the political and the economic front. What were the relations which US shared with the balanced part of the world? Those equations are getting realigned. This week marked the visits of the UK Prime Minister, the French President, and the Ukrainian President to the US. On the basis of whatever transpired at those meetings, it is definite that the political and economic equation with the balanced part of the world with the US is going to undergo a lot of change. The good thing is that insofar as India is concerned, India has got healthy relations with the US as well, the other parts of the world, except countries like China and a few Muslim nations. So the realignment of the world would definitely impact the global trade and the global political equation, but the Indian equation with these countries would remain quite intact. On the stock market front, the cuts on the stock market were quite sharp. The Nifty 50 was down by around 3%, Nifty Mid Cap was down by around 5%, and Nifty Small Cap was down by around 6%. The FIIs continued to be relentless sellers to the extent of 22,000 crores this week, and the DIIs continued to balance out those purchases. But the cuts on the stock market and individual prices of stocks was quite sharp. The benchmark indices which suffered the most this week was Nifty IT index, which was down by around 8%, but the least impacted was Nifty Bank index, which was just down by around 1%. These are definitely uncertain times for the Indian stock markets. But if we look at some of the major events which have happened in last 5 years, the prominent being COVID and the Ukrainian war, initially the stock markets have responded with a sharp decline, but in a few weeks or few months, the entire scene gets changed, and within a few months, the stock market is back on track looking at the long-term fundamentals. This is also something which could be expected in the present times where there are global uncertainties on the economic front. As far as the commodity markets globally are concerned, crude was down by around 2%, and the Indian gold prices were down by 1%, and silver prices in India were down by around 4%. Crude is down by a huge 21% from its 52-week high, which is a pleasant news for the Indian economy. As far as the global market trends are concerned, the market which suffered the most was the Nasdaq, which was down by around 3.5%, and the S&P 500 was down by around 1%. That is all for this week. Thank you.